My main emotional experience in the boats was just intense anger, and it was the anger of this thing happening so fast and just being totally out of control of the situation. Having the opportunities to develop new friendships and the loss of my two closest friends end, and without the opportunity to say goodbye to them, and this just all came up as anger. And I think for a lot of us, the sharks around us and the bumping into the boats and all that it just brought up all our anger. And I remember one guy picking up an oar and just starting to pound at one of the sharks that was right alongside.
Jeez.
It was so fear was displaced by rage, really.
And how was the skipper? What was he? He must have been.
He was just incredible. He just lost his wife. He had lost 5 other people that he was responsible for. He had lost his ship. Their whole dream had dissolved in front of his eyes. And
did he feel guilty? Was guilt more?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never talked to him directly about a sense of guilt, but I don't see how he couldn't have grappled with that for a long time. We didn't do a lot of talking.
You didn't?
No, everybody was kind of exhausted and in shock, dazed.
Yeah.
Shock is a funny phenomenon. You function. Everything's practical. You do what you need to do to handle what's happening. You survive, but emotionally you're all shut down. I think that's not accidental. I think that's what happens. The writing of the book, I was shut down through all that whole year. I'm not really sure when I kind of came out of that. I had 2 close friends of mine died in that first year that I got back, one from leukemia and one was struck by lightning. And I remember just not being able to feel anything, being shocked, being dismayed, but not really being able to get in touch with what I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so the book was written during that period, and I knew while I was writing it that I'd have to retell the story someday. But I had no idea it would come out as a movie. It was always, my idea was always to write another book about it. When I was on the Albatross, we were living in Ohio, and while I was on the boat, my parents moved. So when I came back from Tampa, where we were let off by our rescue boat, I came into a totally new town. I didn't know anybody, and it was, but I finished high school there, in my last year of high school. And I went to college for a year and a half, and then I bought a pack frame and started hitchhiking around the country. And
what was that like?
And it was I needed to move, and I needed to move around. I'll tell you what, that one of the main things that the accident left me with was an acute sense that life could end any second, and I've never lost that feeling. I wake up in the morning and it's like it can be over without warning. And, so I was very restless to get out and see as much as I could and experience as much as I could. And college was very confining and constricting to me. So I began to travel, and I loved it. It was new experiences, meeting people, soaking in as much as I could. And I did that for about a year and a half, and became interested in the history of the country, the cultures I was moving, some cultures I was moving through. Went back to school, brought my grades up, transferred to Columbia University, graduated in history from there, and it was about a year later that I went in the Marine Corps.
Oh, really?
And I was in the Marine Corps for 3 years, and then traveled again some more.
Were you drafted into the Marines?
No,
You signed up?
I signed up. And I met a young lady, and we traveled around the country for a long time and lived together for a while in Oregon. And then I eventually went back to school on the GI Bill and studied geology for 3 years. And then left and traveled again. I bought a small boat and was going to sail from Annapolis to Seattle through the canal. And that got aborted. The engine kept breaking down. All my money got used up. But it was a matter of moving and traveling, and then eventually ending up here. And I've been here ever since. There was a point at which I just had it, and I stopped, and I needed some stability.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had an interview like this?
About 70 or 80 of them.
They're all like that?
When the white squall.
Yeah, right.
They sent me to London and Hamburg. I had between 60 and 70 interviews in Germany and London.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was great.
How do you feel now that it's all over, and you know, the calm is probably, I mean, is it all over, or what's happening now?
It's freed me a lot to move to get on with my life. I'm not aware of any specific changes in my relationship with my parents. I know that there were hours, there was a 24-hour period when they didn't know, well, there was a long period when they didn't know whether I was alive or dead, because the first news that came in from the Gran Rio through the Coast Guard through radio was that some had survived and some hadn't. And it took the Gran Rio 24 hours from the time they picked us up at sea to get into Tampa. It was only then that people knew who was there and who wasn't. I'm not really sure how that changed my relationship with my parents.
See, I did a lot of hitchhiking myself.
You did?
Yes, I did. And I've changed because of it.
Yeah.
I read Jack Kerouac when I was in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, well, that's what
And I got out. Did it?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, what a world. What an optimist. You know, what a person who lives for the moment.
Yeah.
And probably that moment, that reaching into that moment for you,
Yeah.
you know, kind of made sense for you at that time, you know, because you wanted to hold on to those moments. And
Right.
what you said here about how, you know, life could, you know, like that, it could be over.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the...
Yeah, I think Kerouac really, that reading On the Road really dovetailed into that feeling of immediacy.